In the video that you just saw at the very beginning of the service, it talks about, all the universities that were founded in America. They were founded as Christian institutions. In fact, and then they mentioned Harvard. Let me read to you. I'm going to read to you the original mission statement of Harvard University. All right? Founded in 1636. This was why it was founded. Here it is. Let every student be plainly instructed and earnestly pressed to consider well the main end of his life and his studies is to know God and Jesus Christ, which is eternal life, and therefore to lay Christ in the bottom as the only foundation of all sound knowledge and learning. That's why Harvard was founded. When is the last time you thought of Harvard as a Christian institution? It's not just universities. It's just the way of the nature of things in our country. If I say YMCA, what does YMCA stand for? Young Men's Christian Association. When is the last time you've thought of the YMCA as being a Christian deal? It's just the nature of this stuff, folks. Jesus said, though, that the gates of Hades will not prevail against his church. And yet, it just seems like if we're not careful, we forget why we are. So here's what I want to do. I want to just, and I only have a few moments left, I want to just say to you three very simple statements. I want to just to get a focus on remembering the reason that we gather, the reason this church is here, and why this church matters so much. I just want to suggest three things that you never forget, that you just never forget. And they're not profound, but they're profound in the simplicity of them. Okay, here they are. Number one, never forget who you are. Never forget who you are. If I say the name Kirk Douglas, a handful of people in this room will go, I know who that is. If I say Michael Douglas, his son, more would raise their hand. If you're young, you go, I have no idea who you're talking about. Kirk Douglas, in his day, was one of the icons of Hollywood. He was a big movie star. And Kirk Douglas had kind of a thing that he liked to do. He liked to pick up hitchhikers and give them a ride. And he tells the story of one day he picked up a guy on the Malibu highway who was thumbing a ride, a sailor who had just been discharged. He was thumbing a ride up north, and so Kirk Douglas pulled over and offered him a ride. And the guy jumped in Kirk Douglas's car, threw his duffel bag in the backseat, took a glance at the driver, and just did kind of a double take. And he's looking at him, and he's going, I know this guy. I know this guy. And he's racking his brain, and he steals another look. And Kirk's describing this. He steals another look. He doesn't want to stare. He goes, I know this guy. Who is this guy? And he takes another look. And finally he said, he just lit up. He just lit up. He figured it out. And then he looked at me and said, do you have any idea who you are? Isn't that a great question? Do you have any idea who you are? I got to tell you something. I got to tell you one of my biggest shortcomings, of which there are many, but let me tell you one of them. I am recognitionally challenged. You know what that means? It means I'm really slow to recognize people. And when people say, I'll never forget a face. I'm not that guy, okay? And like the North American last week, those are nightmare events for me because people come up and I just don't know. I'm really, really slow. But God has blessed me with a wife who is exactly the opposite. Lisa down here. Lisa is very quick to recognize people. And so what she's done is she's learned how to help me because she knows I'm clueless. And so what will happen is somebody will walk up and she'll drop the name. So somebody will walk up and she'll go, hey, Tom. And see, Tom is the chairman of our elders. And or sometimes she'll walk up and she'll say, hey, I'm Lisa. And it's really helpful. All right, you get the, not quite that bad. But as bad as I am, she's good. But the problem is I'm recognitionally challenged, which means that usually when she tells me who somebody is, I don't see it. And so I disagree with her. Because she's wrong. Because the person doesn't look like the person she's saying that person is. Because I'm recognitionally challenged. So let me give you the real life story. So we're in Target a number of years ago in Mesa, and we're checking out, and I get the elbow, which is how she spotted somebody, gets the elbow, and she goes 2 registers over, look. I look over. She goes, you know who that is? I'm recognitionally challenged. How could I know? I look over and I go, no idea. She goes, that's Danny Ainge. Now, you might not know the name Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge played for the Celtics, but at the time, he was the coach of the Phoenix Suns. And she goes, that's Danny Ainge. And I looked over and I go, no, it's not. Because see, that's what a recognitionally challenged person would say when somebody, I go, no, it's not. She goes, yes, it is. I go, honey, it's not. She goes, I'm telling you, that's Danny Ainge. I said, honey, if that was Danny Ainge, he'd be much taller. It's not Danny Ainge. Well, our little daughter, Amy, was listening to this conversation. She's 7 years old. She's going, there's an easy way to find this out. She walks over to the guy. We're having this conversation. And then we discover she's like tugging on his shirt. And a little blonde head, blue-eyed little girl looks up to, and she goes, hey, mister, I got a question for you. And he looks down and he starts laughing. Yeah? Hey, are you Danny Ainge? She has no idea who Danny Ainge is, but she heard us talking about it. Are you Danny Ainge? And he says something like this. He says, well, that depends who's asking. And she says, my name's Amy, but that's not important. What's important is who you are. Are you Danny Ainge? And she kind of melted his heart, I think. And he smiled at her. He says, yes, sweetie, I'm Danny Ainge. And she looked up and she goes, huh, my daddy doesn't think so. To which Danny Ainge said to my daughter, who's your daddy? I met Danny Ainge that day. He's not as tall as you might imagine. Anyway,